There we go. Hey, everybody, welcome back to this episode of Think Business Live. Looking forward to talking to Ismail Kadyrov. I know him as Ish, my son's tennis instructor. But Ish, I'm looking forward to having you on the show again. This is our second time. I think it's been a couple of years since you've been on the show.
2.5. It's been 2.5.
Has it been that long? Okay. The last episode was great, The World According to Ish. But Ish, the reason I'm looking forward to have you on the show is, I really wanted to talk about reinvention. And you are somebody who continually keeps on reinventing themselves. You're a registered nurse and been working on the front lines. And so thank you for your service to you and everything that you are all doing. You're a tennis coach, and then you followed your passion to wanting to be a DJ. And so I want to just kind of start by talking about mindset and the mindset of just continually reinventing yourself to follow your passion of fulfillment. So, talk to that on how you keep on kind of moving towards your passions.
Yeah, absolutely, John. Thank you. And I know it's been 2.5 years since we talked, and I'm grateful to be back. I know you had big players on your podcast, so it's an honor to be back with you, chatting a little bit, sharing my wisdom through my experience.
Yeah.
But yeah, registered nurse, tennis coach, and now, DJ producer. I've been doing it for 3 years now, and getting myself in the local scene in Detroit. And it's just, it's been a long time coming. I've always been passionate about the music industry, always been a passionate fan of the events and the festivals. So I always had that plan in the back of my mind. I just always had to do the tennis and the nursing just because those were my responsibilities back in the day. But once I graduated from the university and I got my degree, and I said, you know what, I got to dive in. I got to start swimming. And I just really paid attention to what I really want. And, I always looked at myself in the mirror and I asked myself, what do I want to do? And then, always led to music. I was always the kid in the headphones, looking back at when I was a little kid, always wearing headphones, always listening to electronic dance music. And now it's kind of a giving back to the music and learning more about it, how it all works. And that's kind of how my mindset has been. And now it's my goal is to see where I can take this ISMO project from, now we're in 2020 to 2030. Really having big goals and aspirations with that.
Yeah. So let's talk about that. You talk about 2030, studies show, pre-COVID studies show that by 2030, 85% of the jobs that exist do not exist today. And you're talking about, the DJ career and where it can go. But this decade is going to show many, many new changes in jobs, careers, opportunity. And so when you say where it's going to go, like where is the potential of it to go? Because I think sometimes people just think about DJ and music in one way, but it could morph over the next decade in ways that we're not even thinking.
For sure. And then the events right now, for the majority of the entire world, it's been online. A lot of platforms like Twitch have been a major aspect of the artists and DJs and producers. I think there's going to be a shift in regards of creative side. I think people will still be making music. However, I think there's also going to be a pivot in regards how events are being held. For example, drive-ins have been a popular thing now. In addition to, for example, I believe in England, they started doing spaced out events when they kind of put you in a small little, I don't know, like a bubble, and providing that distance, that safe distance that allows to have an event. But again, COVID is an interesting aspect because, again, I think it's here to stay for now. However, I don't know where it's going to be in 2030. And but one thing that I know is COVID is something that I cannot control. I can only control what I do and how I approach things in regards to my mentality and my work effort in the aspects that I truly enjoy.
Yeah, no, absolutely. No, that's well said. You can control what you can control. let's talk about COVID for a minute, Ish, because you've been on the front lines since all of this began. Before it began, you've been a nurse for a long time. But again, thank you for, your service.
Thank you.
How have you been able to, what's your mindset been through all of this, and how have you been able to stay strong and continue to, take care of people in the hospital? What's that journey been like?
I think initially for me personally, like it helps me that I'm a young and, I've been taking care of my body. I mean, I'm pretty much as healthy as I can be. At the time, I knew chaos was coming. I knew there's going to be a lot of unknowns. So I fell into it knowing that uh, there's not going to be answers in the first couple months. And knowing that allowed me to just roll with the punches. Again, you heard the stories. We didn't have any PPEs. We didn't have certain policies. The higher ups were asking us for advice in regards to how to handle it. So, nurses that have been, or people that have been nurses for decades, all of a sudden there's no policies and they have to figure out things on the spot. They couldn't handle it and they quit. But for me, I understood the situation as, I'm here for a bigger purpose, and I'm here to help people through their tough times. Of course, for me, the number one thing was the protection for myself. But other than that, we had a great group of people that understood the situation at hand. And like I said, we rolled with the punches, and slowly but surely we figure out the best way to take care of those people at the time being.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I appreciate everything that you and all your team is doing. And, we touched a little bit on, the front lines. We touched a little bit on the DJ. I want to get more into both of those. But I want to talk about you as a tennis instructor, because you're a tennis player, you're a tennis instructor. What's, the game of tennis is, what's the secret to coaching tennis players?
Well, it helps me that I've been playing the game for over 20 years, so there's no surprises about the game. I think I am very knowledgeable, and there's nothing that I don't know. Like, it's probably going to be, if I'm looking at something, it's going to be probably taught a different way that's going to help another player. But with coaching, it's understanding three aspects. It's the player, it's the coach, and a parent. I think all three need to be aligned, and all three need to understand the goals, because the player is there to achieve something, and whatever that is for the coach to figure out and the parent to align with both of these aspects. It's a triangle of success. So, I am fully confident in my skill set to get them to whatever, goals they're aligned with. I just want the player to understand, hey, if you are chasing on becoming the number one in the world, there's got to be a lot of sacrifices, and there's got to be a lot of aspects where you have to dedicate your time to in regards to tennis. And I don't want to scare these players, but if you want to become, if you want to, for example, become a Division I player, there are certain aspects that you need to expect of yourself. And I think players can buy in, but there's also parents that need to buy in, because now there has to be sacrifice from a parent side. Are you willing to take your player to tournaments? Are you willing to sign them up? When I was growing up, my mom sacrificed a lot for me, because I was basically traveling. Out of 3 weeks, we played 2 in a row was a tournament every weekend, and then there was a weekend off, and we did that for about 2 to 3 years. And then that aspect of consistency and persistency to the action at hand led me to become nationally ranked and led me to become a Division I tennis player. So what I try to do now is I try to create that communication between the player and the parent, because if they want the results, the bigger the results, the more sacrifice needs to happen for them to attain the bigger goals that they're trying to achieve.
Yeah, I love it, Ish. I just wanted to touch on kind of all three things that you're doing, right? The DJing, the producing, the frontline nurse. and being a tennis coach. And I want to just kind of move into a little bit of how you not only have continued to reinvent yourself, but really as you reinvent yourself, the advice that you would give, especially a lot of kids who are young adults who are graduating college today, right? And the average millennial, studies show, change jobs every 3 to 4 years. And not that that's necessarily a bad thing, but they're always looking for, what that next opportunity of growth is for themselves, amongst other things. But I know that's one piece. So you're talking about mindset, you're talking about sacrifices, you're talking about dedication. And so regardless of all of those people, so I want to talk to the person right now who's kind of stuck in a certain situation, stuck in a job, stuck in this. They want to do something else, but they're stuck and they want to reinvent themselves. They just don't know what those first steps are. So talk to that person, because you do a really good job of balancing all the things that you do. Being a nurse, being a producer, and being a tennis coach. And that's not easy for many people. So I just want to rewind and start. How do you get the person who wants to reinvent themselves unstuck to start reinventing themselves?
Of course, I think from what I've learned over the last couple of years, a lot of people run an autopilot. They state certain things that they want to achieve, but they never do the action plan to achieving something. For example, let's say changing careers, right? Well, I think the first step is setting the intention in regards to this is what I'm going to do, and after that, figuring out the certain smaller steps to achieving that goal. So when I was starting the production, I set my intention on I'm going to be a producer and DJ, and I'm going to headline the main stages, the biggest stages in the world. Now I'm going to go back and I'm going to see this is where I'm at. This is my point A. My point Z, and everything in between is the process. So the number one thing for anybody that's trying to do something is set the intention, and you need to be firm with what your intention is. And then once you set that intention, your self-awareness and your subconscious is going to lead you through the process to get you there. But I think a lot of people are scared because now you are being accountable to yourself to achieving those goals.
Right. Let's talk about it. But I want to talk about that accountability, because I want to rewind for a minute though, and I want to have you define what intention means, because I think some people don't really understand what that means. What to define intention?
So the intention is, for me personally, I said I am a DJ producer that is going to headline the biggest stages in the world and change the music scene forever. That is the intention. So
clarity in your purpose.
It's a clarity and a statement. And now I made that statement and I write it every single day, John. I mean, I have this little book right here, and I've been writing this since 2017. And it's the statement I write every single morning and night.
Yeah.
Something in regards to what I'm chasing. My biggest thing is the self-development aspect of a human being, is the financial freedom, and its attainability of the bigger goals. Those are the three things that I'm setting my intention to.
Yeah.
So now it's the connection of, this is in the beginning, it's going to be weird because you're not used to it. It's not a habit that you've been practicing. It's not the routine that you've been accountable to. But now you have to make sure that, hey, I'm going to write this every single morning and every single night or before going to bed. And you're going to see that your brain is going to change. And all of a sudden, you're going to see opportunities come up and line up towards the intention that you've set for yourself. So for me personally, like with the DJing producing, I got the Ableton, which is the digital audio workstation that allows me to make music. And I just dove in. I didn't know what I was doing, but slowly but surely, a YouTube video explaining something. That YouTube video led to this. That YouTube video led to that. And now there's that expansion. So if you don't know what to do, make the intention of what you want to do. And it's important to know, like if you know that you want something, set that intention. If you don't, keep exploring, keep tasting things, because it's never too late, especially if our target audience that's listening to this could be a recent graduate or a kid in high school or someone that is all of a sudden, oh, now I'm an adult, what do I do?
Yeah.
It's good to keep exploring. However, if you want something, set that intention and opportunities will going to come up over time.
Yeah. I love everything that you're talking about, Ish. I'm 48, and when I was 18, my dad gave me a set of tapes by Brian Tracy, and he said to me, Jonathan, you'll learn more from these people than you will college. And I became obsessed. I knew at that moment I wanted to do what I'm doing today, but I wanted to talk to you about. And so I was so obsessed, I kind of created a habit where every day I started listening to the Brian Tracy's, the Tony Robbins, the Jim Rohns, I could go on. And they all talk about habits, and you're talking about habits. And it's not about having a habit for 1 week or 2 weeks or 3 weeks. You're talking about writing something down since 2017. And so I think there's kind of a lot of times consistency people have a problem with. They will do it. They won't feel anything coming. And so they just stop. And so talk a little bit about how you have been able to stay consistent with your habits.
Well, it comes back to something, music for me is something that I truly am passionate about. So I appreciate, for example, with DJing, you need to sort your tracks, which is basically listen to the music that you're going to play. You need to understand how to craft your sets. I mean, there's a lot of work that goes into outside of just playing sets. And, to an average listener, they might enjoy the moment of being on stage and playing in front of a crowd. However, there's a lot of little things that go into before you're actually playing a set. Or, for example, if you're an event organizer, it's great to have a big event with thousands of people like a festival, but there's a lot of groundwork that needs to happen, a lot of people that need to be motivated and inspired to make this big thing happen. Yeah. So it comes back to, if you know what you want, set that intention. And it's going to be, for me, it's not difficult to write these things because that's something that I want out of myself. So, and it comes back to,
I think I don't want to interrupt you, but I think also what you're talking about is one of the things I'm a big believer in is, you start with the end in mind. And if you know the end and then you rewind it, reverse engineer it to today, then doing it is just one step closer to where you want to end up. Which is what you're, I'm just echoing some of the things you're talking about, but I'm a big believer in that too. I think where it gets people where people stop is they don't know what their intention is. They don't know what they want, like you're talking about. And so it just becomes an exercise of exhaustion versus working towards something bigger than themselves.
And I think for me, and also, for example, there's people that set those intentions, but then they fail to continuously work through it because they're focusing on the goal rather than the process. I think the process is important. Like the fact that I'm at point A and I need to get to Z, I'm not focusing on the Z. I'm focusing on anything in between. I got to enjoy the work that I'm putting into it. Correct. And it's easier said than done. But if my intention is the goals that I'm chasing, but I also need to put an intention in the fact that, hey, I got to love the process. I got to love what I'm doing. And I got to, make sure that I am holding myself accountable to the fact that, hey, I'm not disappointed in the peaks and troughs of the process. I'm enjoying the entire ride. I'm enjoying the thrill of failing. I'm enjoying the thrill of success. And I'm constantly going through it like a train.
Yeah. I love what you're talking about there because it's about, you got to enjoy the peaks, the valleys, the plateau, the excitement, the lessons and the failures. I mean, there's so many pieces of the journey that I think some people don't realize, wow, I'm stepping into something that's going to be really fun, but it's also going to be difficult. And yeah, I love the way you put that. I want to talk about accountability for a minute because you've been echoing a lot of accountability, self-accountability. What do you do when you need help with accountability? Because I think there's always people in place that there's mentors and people that can help you, but I think a lot of times people have a hard time with self-accountability. And so, how do you hold yourself accountable, and who do you reach out to when you find yourself slipping?
In regards to DJing and producing, I got coaches that are helping me. I want to give a big shout out to Tyler Westand, Tyler Morris, that's been helping me through this process. Dylan Nathaniel has been helping me through the process. And these guys help me accountable to achieving my goals. So, and you hear it, from your standpoint, you're a business coach. So if I am if I'm trying to make, more sales this month, I'm going to reach out to you because you have a track record and you're going to hold me accountable. And it again comes back to the intention, right? I know what my intention is, and you, John, for example, in the process of getting me there. So I'm not afraid of investing in something that is going to help me get to the end goal. So I know that these guys that have been helping me with production,
Right.
they have been in the scene. They've been in the scene for many, many years, and they know what they're doing. And they're holding me accountable to what I'm doing by giving me the homework, by giving me the lessons,
Yeah.
by checking what I've been doing. And that's also important. If you get, remember that the bigger the goals, the more people that you need to succeed.
Yeah.
You're not going to get there on your own.
Yeah. That's important. That's a great. I'm just writing that down because I think it's important. That's great. I love that. You really do, and you got to spend time investing in yourself, and you got to reach out to those mentors and people. What's one of the best pieces of advice a mentor's ever given you?
I think it's just understanding that it's a marathon in a lot of ways. It's not you're not competing with anyone. It's all about you, and it's what you portray. And with especially in the art of music, it's bigger than the music itself. It's what you contribute to the emotional side of a person. Can you make them feel better with how you are crafting your sets, or how you produce a certain song or something like that? So it's everything in between that, like, you are giving them that product of your music, but it's beyond just, hey, I made this track. It's the emotional connection. It's how it made them feel at that certain moment.
Yeah.
And I think that's an important thing, because now we're talking about not the parties that DJing and the DJing or hosting, but more or less an emotional experience for that listener during the entire show.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, I love what you talk about, Ish. You're not competing with anyone. I've never really felt like I've ever competed with anyone. I've only competed with myself. And I'm always doing my best to try to be the best I can be, to grow. You're the same way. And so how do you stay consistent with your constant growth and your constant mindset of growing? Because it's not easy. I mean, some days it's not easy to like grow and grow and keep on growing. So how do you kind of get yourself in the mindset to keep on growing and evolving and learning new things?
I personally, like, my biggest thing is, when I go to bed, I always kind of review my day. Like, some people kind of write things down with what they've achieved, where they think they could have done something better. I always kind of have a podcast of my own in a way, where I discuss something that I liked about the day, what's something that I disliked. And it comes back to, really just being focused on what's in front of me. For example, I could be doing a lot of music, but then, hey, you didn't really go outside. Maybe you should dedicate the next day into more exercise and just kind of getting your body, moving, because that for a long term, that's important. It's and everyone's different. I think they just need to explore it. For example, there's people, and I don't know how you are, John, but maybe you need to write it down. Maybe someone needs to just talk it out with somebody. Maybe they need a person that needs to be there for them just to listen. Like I said, for me, it's more or less talking in the mirror before I go to bed, just kind of discussing the day. But I think everyone's different. It's just being aware of the situation at hand.
Yeah.
being
Yeah.
self-aware of what you're trying to accomplish, and then reviewing the days and then hammering away on the next day.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree. I spend every day by the end of the day, at the end of the day, I review my day. I make sure that every call, text, email is responded to, and then I look at my day and how it was balanced. I study my day, how many appointments, how many follow-ups, how many texts, what I did, and what I need more of the next day, and then I schedule it. I'm very time management oriented, and then I'll schedule, even if it is a reminder to schedule a 15-minute walk around the block. I'll put everything in my calendar, and I live through my calendar, because I think it's so important.
Absolutely. But
Yeah.
one thing I'm going to add, John, and this is just me personally, like I've been doing calendar for quite a while, but then what I've learned about myself, I was being stressed out about what's next on the calendar
Mm-hmm.
and not being practical of being in the present moment. So coming back to, as long as you're paying attention to how you feel and apply yourself, like I do a little bit of both. Like I schedule things, but I also schedule times where it's a me time.
Yeah, me
And
too.
I can do whatever I want. I can go back to music. I can kind of, cycle through YouTube videos, whatever. But I think it's also important to understand you don't just do the calendar for the sake of doing it. You're doing it because you're trying to be accountable, or it helps you to get to your goals. But don't force yourself to all of a sudden live it minute by minute, where you're like, oh my God, what's the next thing? I got to stop this now. I got to move on to the next thing. And now you're creating that unintentional anxiety that doesn't need to be there.
Correct. Which I think is pretty common for type A people. So I'm glad you brought it up, and learning how to kind of balance that out. That's really important. Ish, this has been a ton of fun. You ready for a quick speed round?
All right, let's do it. Let's do it.
Favorite book and why?
Think and Grow Rich, connecting your spiritual self to the action at hand. And before you say anything, I want to say that book helped me a ton. So for those of you who are listening, hit me up. I'll send you an Audible for free.
It's one of the best books ever written, and it's a book that I think everybody should read multiple times through their life. I think it's huge. Yeah, it's great. It's great. Best piece of wisdom you ever got?
Consistent, persistent work effort will get you the results.
I love it. Define yourself in one word.
Action.
One piece of advice for somebody who graduated college recently.
Keep exploring.
Fast forward 100 years, what do you want your legacy to be?
Someone that just made you happier.
That's a good one. Finish a sentence. One thing you got to do to finish 2020 strong is?
Following the passion that you love.
I love it. Ish, tell everybody how they can get a hold of you, and anything else you want to share.
Well, you can hit me up on Instagram, rn.ismo, at rn.ismo, or facebook.com/rnismo music. The last comments is just, the biggest thing is just don't judge yourself. I mean, you're going to have a lot of opportunities. You're going to have a lot of things that are going to come your way. Sometimes, days feel stale, or you might be in a very difficult place. Just understand that things will turn around and things will happen. Just make sure that you're paying attention to who you really are.
Yeah.
And again, it comes back to, if you don't know what you want to do, we talked about following your passions, but if you don't know, it is totally fine to explore. It is totally fine to see and taste different things. And eventually you're going to see a path that aligns to you. There's no right or wrong answer. We're all here together on this one beautiful planet. And I just want people to understand that it's a long haul. It's a marathon. Yeah. So you might have a bad week, but understand that, hey, you're going to have opportunities that are going to align to you. And if anyone that is struggling and want to just talk, just hit me up. I would love to help them out on their journey and on their process of things. And like I've said, Think and Grow Rich is one of the most fundamental books that's out there that connects the physical world that we're in to the subconscious, mystical world of spirituality, and connecting all of those things will potentially lead you to a happier, successful life down the road.
Right. Ish, you were awesome as always. I appreciate your time, your wisdom, your insight to things. It's great. I love, watching you continually reinvent yourself and do everything at, it seems like 150%. I appreciate, again, you being on the front lines to help people, following your producer DJ path, and everything you've done just for our family when it comes to tennis and working with Jacob. And it's been great getting to know you through the years, and love watching your careers grow. And thanks for getting everybody more intentional today. I think that's really important, and that's something that I think everybody needs to hear over and over and over again. Always fun having you on the show. We'll have to do it again sooner than later.
I would love to.
For sure. To the Think community, thanks for joining us, and thanks everybody. Ish, thanks, brother.
Thank you. We'll see you soon.